Hello and welcome to my video where I'm going to show you how to weave rattan into an open weave webbing design, and then how to turn that into a shade for a tea light. Rattan is a plant that grows up to several hundred meters long in the jungles of Southeast Asia, and you'll find most of it in Indonesia. When you buy it, it'll be in lengths of 2 to 3 meters, and it'll be available in a couple of different profiles. Centre cane is round in profile and it's made from the inside of the rattan palm. This is what's mostly used for basketry work. Flat cane or chair cane, on the other hand, is of course more flat in profile, and this is made from the bark or the outer peel of the rattan palm. Rattan is very useful because it's a woody material that's very flexible when wet, so it's great for weaving. You can use any width of cane to make this design, but just note that you need to space the strands of cane out so that they're an appropriate distance from each other. There's information and calculators online to help you work this out. Today I'm going to be using some number 6 or 5mm wide chair cane. Normally, in order to weave this kind of design, you'd need a frame with evenly spaced holes all around the outside. This could be a chair frame or even a picture frame that you've drilled the holes into yourself. Having a frame with holes in would certainly make this process easier, but in this video I want to prove that you don't need to drill any holes to make some rattan webbing, just so it's then accessible to as many people as possible. In order to do this, I'm going to use just a cheap pot holder loom off eBay, the cane of course, some masking tape and some double-sided tape, a pair of scissors, some glue, a pencil, a ruler, and a spray bottle. A pair of pliers will also come in handy. Just for reference, I used between 5.5 and 6 meters of cane for this project. You of course don't need to use a pot holder loom specifically. You can instead use any kind of picture frame that's flat on one side, or you could make the frame out of scrap wood. Just ignore the dowels on the base of mine, they're completely irrelevant. Right, so the first thing you need to do is put masking tape onto the top of the frame, like so. Then use a pencil and ruler to mark the middle of the central gap on each side. Then measure outwards from these pencil lines and mark 1-inch intervals, or whatever interval you're using. My particular frame just happens to be 6.25 inches square in the centre, and because I'll be using 5mm cane, I'll be spacing out the pieces 1 inch apart. You'll notice that I also marked out 1/2-inch intervals as well, but that is not necessary, you don't need to do that. Next, you'll need to soak your cane in a big bowl of water for at least 20 minutes. This is because when it's dry, cane is brittle, but when it's wet, it's very flexible. You'll likely want to fill a spray bottle with water as well to keep the cane damp as you work. Work out how long you need your pieces of cane to be in order to bridge the gap in your frame. I would recommend making them 1 inch wider or longer than the gap. In total, I personally needed 20 pieces of cane this same size, 10 vertical and 10 horizontal. Then apply double-sided tape along each side of the central square. Then remove the protective film. If your pieces of cane lie flat, then that's great, you don't need to do this next bit, but if they're curved like mine, you might want to leave them to dry under a couple of heavy items. This will just make the weaving a bit easier and will help the weaving to stay nice and flat. If you're using a frame with holes in, then you don't need to do this, because weaving the cane in and out of the holes will keep tension in the cane and will keep it nice and flat. Once those pieces of cane have dried, you then need to soak them again for 20 minutes, and then you're ready to start weaving. First, place pieces of cane vertically on the 1-inch pencil lines all across the gap. Then the second set of cane pieces need to be placed perpendicular to this set, making sure that they also lie on the 1-inch pencil lines. I've made diagrams to show you this process a bit more clearly because unfortunately a lot of the time my hands are in the way. Then place 5 horizontal strands slightly below the 5 strands you placed first. At this point, use some more masking tape to secure the cane pieces in place. Also, if your cane has dried out a bit, make sure to use your spray bottle on the back of the cane. Then the 4th set of cane pieces need to go above the 2nd set, but just a bit to the left. This time though, they need to be woven in, and they need to be woven in the opposite direction to the vertical strands below. So where the vertical strands underneath go above, these strands need to go below, and vice versa. So this piece needs to go below, then above, then below, above, below, above, below, above, below, and above. And then afterwards you can just make some adjustments to make sure the vertical strands are parallel to each other and also quite close together. And then do the same for the other pieces as well. It can be a bit fiddly, but just make sure that you don't bend the cane so much that it snaps. Just as a side note, if you put this weaving to one side for a bit, make sure you put something on the centre of the weaving to make sure it stays flat. Otherwise it can distort in shape as it dries. Next, you'll need to cut out the pieces of cane you'll need to add as the diagonal lines. These pieces will be all different sizes because the central diagonals will need to be longer than the ones for the corners. Then just soak these pieces in water so that they're ready to use. So for this first set of diagonal pieces, you need to take them under the vertical strands and over the horizontal strands. As you'll see, this gets a bit fiddly, and pliers are really helpful for pulling the strands through. So that's under the vertical strands and over the horizontal strands. I needed 8 pieces of cane for each diagonal direction. And then the last set of cane pieces goes in the opposite diagonal direction. These ones need to go over the vertical strands and under the horizontal strands. And that's it, your weaving is now complete. Make any adjustments you want to make, and then remove it from the frame. The next step is where we shape this weaving. So first, soak it in water for 20 minutes. Then remove the weaving from the water and shape it around some kind of tube or bottle. As you can see, I used a Pringles tube. Use elastic bands to hold it in place. Then leave it to dry. Then remove the elastic bands, and you'll see that the cane has taken on the shape of the tube. Next, add super glue to the back of the weaving to make sure all of the pieces stay in place. Once dry, use your scissors to cut off the excess cane, which is all the single strands that are sticking out at the edges. Next, cut out a couple of pieces of cane that are just a little bit wider than the curved top and bottom edges. Then soak them. Wrap them around the bottle or the tube that you're using. Use elastic bands to keep them in place, and then leave them to dry. Once dry, you just need to use some wood glue to glue these onto the top and bottom edges, like so. I just use some paper clips to hold these in place. And lastly, you need to cut out a couple of pieces of cane for the side edges as well, and glue those in place. And here you can see the finished result. Since rattan is wood, I would definitely recommend using a battery-powered Tealight. Here you can see the view in the day and at night. And that's it, your project is now complete. Lastly, I just want to draw your attention to Wonder Weaver Design, which is a shop that sells cane weaving kits. The problem I've found with buying cane is that usually you have to buy it in quite large quantities, and that's not great if you're just a beginner who just wants to give it a go. A while back I bought a rainbow basket kit and I asked if I could have 2 free kits in return for a shout out, and they agreed. Apart from the rainbow basket kit, I also got the Christmas bells kit, which includes a solid wood bell mould you can use over and over, and also the star garland kit. There's a really nice selection of kits to choose from. They're good quality and they're inexpensive. So if you're interested, please find the link to Wonder Weaver Design in the description box below. And that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching.